In a galaxy where power has always been defined by advanced technology, weapons of mass destruction, and the might of civilizations, something unexpected has shaken the very core of intergalactic diplomacy. A new force has entered the arena, and it isn't an army, a fleet, or a weapon. It's something far more unsettling: humanity. With nothing but their creativity and ingenuity, humans have proven that true power doesn't lie in what you carry, but in what you can make out of the most ordinary things. When humanity joined the Galactic Council, the delegates expected them to conform to the rules of power they knew so well. They expected energy shields, battle suits, planet-cracking weapons, but humans brought none of these. Instead, they brought an unarmed mind, capable of transforming anything in the room into a force to be reckoned with. A coffee cup, a chair, even the air itself, these became their weapons. The galaxy is left wondering, how did this unassuming species, so different from the others, manage to alter the course of intergalactic diplomacy? How did they shift the balance of power so effortlessly, using only their minds? What does this truly mean for the future of the galaxy and the fragile peace that holds it together? This is just the beginning, an unsettling glimpse of a new era, where creativity is the deadliest weapon, and nothing, not even the laws of nature itself, can be taken for granted. What will humanity do next? What will they turn into a weapon tomorrow? Stay tuned, this is only the beginning of something much, much bigger. The camera shifts focus to the massive round table inside the Galactic Council chamber, where delegates from various species are seated. Each representative is surrounded by a carefully arranged assortment of items seemingly ordinary, yet carrying hidden, lethal potential. First, the Crockley delegate stands, presenting an elegantly designed staff that hums with an eerie, pulsating energy. The staff, decorated with ancient symbols, is actually a multifunctional weapon capable of emitting high-frequency sound waves that could shatter planets if triggered. The light glimmers off the surface as the Crockley speaks, their tone soft, but their gaze steady, as if silently warning the others of the power that lies hidden within their ceremonial display. Next, the Vaughn delegate steps forward, their body encased in a sleek, shimmering suit. The suit itself, though designed for formal diplomacy, is equipped with energy shields, capable of deflecting any attack. Hidden within the folds of the suit are devices capable of emitting blasts of devastating energy, a relic of a long-forgotten war. Yet to them, it's a mere symbol of their cultural heritage. The Jaxal delegate, a towering figure of silvery scales, rolls forward, a graviton manipulator, appearing to be nothing more than a decorative orb. The orb hovers effortlessly in the air, radiating a soft, hypnotic glow. What is not visible is its true function. The device can manipulate the gravitational field, capable of pulling entire fleets into a deadly, spiraling descent. It's a tool for creating art, or destruction, depending on the hand that wields it. The Xyle, a species with chitinous exoskeletons, presents a small vial. To the untrained eye, it might look like an ornamental perfume bottle, shimmering in the dim light of the chamber. But the contents, an ancient, deadly poison, are one of the deadliest substances in the galaxy. One drop is enough to paralyze a creature in seconds, and just a single misstep could render an entire star system defenseless. And then, there's the human delegation. They sit with a casual ease, the only ones at the table who bring nothing but their minds. Their hands are empty, save for the occasional data pad or cup of coffee. No weapons, no shields, no hidden devices. It's almost as if they believe in something far more dangerous than anything the others could bring, something that doesn't require advanced technology or mystic artifacts. The camera lingers on the human representative, a slight smile playing across their lips as they sip their coffee, clearly at ease among the tension of the room. The air around them seems to ripple with an unnerving calm, a quiet assurance that unsettles the other species. What could a species so unarmed possibly bring to the table that could challenge the might of their weaponry? The Xyle delegate, twitching nervously, mutters to the security officer, "Where are their defenses? Are they truly unarmed?" The officer, who had scanned the humans' every movement, merely replies, "They don't need them." Their voice holds an edge of uncertainty, as if trying to understand the very nature of the human species. They've seen the weapons in this room, known the destructive power each one can wield, but none of them are prepared for what the humans bring instead. The camera zooms in on the human representative once more, their hands resting calmly on the table, as if the entire room, with its weapons and ancient traditions, is no more than a quaint ritual to them. The tension builds as we realize that what we are witnessing isn't just a meeting, it's a warning. A warning that the greatest weapon in the universe might not be the one you carry, but the one you carry inside. The camera zooms in on the human delegate, who steps confidently into the room, his expression calm, almost indifferent to the heavy tension in the air. The other delegates, each surrounded by their lethal weapons, watch with growing apprehension. The insectoid delegate's antennae twitch in confusion as they stare at the human, their glowing energy spear crackling with suppressed power. The reptilian delegate's cold, unblinking eyes narrow as the massive metallic battlesuit around them hums, ready for action. The human delegate, unfazed by the intimidating presence of the others, takes his seat at the round table. With a simple motion, he places his coffee cup and tablet in front of him, two everyday items that hold no immediate threat to the untrained eye. Yet, the moment he sets them down, the room seems to pulse with an invisible energy, as if the very air is charged with uncertainty. The chamber had seen it all: world-ending weapons, ceremonial relics of unimaginable power, ancient artifacts capable of shifting the balance of the galaxy. But never before had it seen this. No energy weapons, no battlesuits, no gravitational manipulators. Just a man, sitting among them with nothing more than the tools of ordinary life. A low murmur runs through the room. The delegates exchange uncertain glances, their minds racing. How can someone so unarmed pose a threat? Their eyes flicker to the human's coffee cup once more. The soft steam rising from the cup seems to mock their preparations. How could he possibly survive in this chamber of death? The camera shifts to focus on a few of the delegates. The insectoid species is now visibly agitated, their GT sleds tapping against the floor, a nervous gesture. The reptilian delegate, seemingly unsure of what to make of the human's lack of weapons, adjusts the controls on his battlesuit, the armor whirring as it flexes and adapts to the environment. In a room filled with creatures capable of devastating entire systems, one question burned in their minds: why? Why would anyone walk into a room full of weapons unarmed? Was this an oversight, or did the humans know something they didn't? The camera lingers on the human delegate as he casually surveys the chamber. His hand rests on the coffee cup, the slight motion of his fingers suggesting a quiet confidence. He doesn't seem to care that his mere presence is throwing the council into disarray. To him, it is business as usual. The humans were a species unlike any other, unpredictable, inventive, and, most terrifyingly, calm in the face of danger. In a place where power was defined by weapons, humans had brought only their wits. A tense silence fills the room. Then, the camera shifts to the insectoid delegate, who, unable to hold back any longer, hisses, "Where are your weapons? How can you sit there so defenseless?" The human delegate's gaze remains steady, almost amused, as he replies softly, "I don't need them." The room goes still, the weight of his words hanging in the air. His simple declaration shatters the careful illusion of control that each species had cultivated with their weapons. For a moment, the only sound is the faint hum of the chamber's engines, an almost oppressive reminder of how fragile the peace in this room truly is. And with those words, a new chapter began, one that would test the very fabric of what it meant to be armed in a galaxy where power was always defined by what you could destroy. For the first time in the history of the Galactic Council, the question wasn't whether you could bring your weapon to the table but whether you needed to at all. The human delegate stands up at the table, his calm demeanor unshaken as a sudden shift in the atmosphere fills the room with tension. The chamber's peaceful hum is replaced by the unmistakable sound of rapid footsteps. A figure, cloaked in shadow, storms into the chamber. The assassin, a being from an unknown species, moves with lethal intent, his eyes fixed on a high-ranking delegate sitting at the center of the table. The room falls into a hushed silence, every eye now focused on the figure as he draws the weapon, preparing to take the life of the council member. The alien delegates tense, their hands moving instinctively toward their own weapons, ready to act. But before anyone can react, the human delegate steps forward. With a swift motion, he lifts his coffee cup and throws it. The action is fluid, precise, there's no hesitation, only purpose. The cup sails through the air, striking the assassin square in the face. He stumbles back, the force of the impact momentarily disorienting him. For a brief second, time seems to freeze. Then, with barely a flicker of emotion, the human taps his tablet. A faint electric hum fills the room, and the assassin convulses as an electric shock courses through his suit, rendering him motionless. The assassin collapses to the floor, utterly incapacitated. The room is frozen in stunned silence. The other delegates stare in disbelief, their eyes darting from the human delegate to the fallen assassin. What they had just witnessed was beyond their understanding. The human had used nothing but a coffee cup and a tablet, two everyday items, to neutralize a threat that had been prepared for with so much deadly force. It wasn't the cup that was dangerous. It was the human's mind. They had taken an ordinary object and turned it into a weapon. The camera zooms out, capturing the entire council chamber as the species around the table continue to process what had just happened. A murmur ripples through the room, each species re-evaluating their understanding of power, their own weapons, and the very idea of defense. The silence is palpable, a sense of deep uncertainty hanging in the air. The council members shift uncomfortably in their seats, unsure whether to feel awe or fear. What could they have done if the human had turned their gaze toward them? The scene cuts to a later meeting, where the atmosphere is noticeably more tense. Delegates now keep a closer watch on their surroundings, uncertain of just what the human might do next, or what might be used against them. For the first time in the history of the Galactic Council, a single, unarmed species had proven that true power didn't come from weapons. It came from the ability to turn anything into one. The camera captures the human delegate sitting at the table, casually sipping his coffee as snacks are placed before the delegate's pretzels, crackers, and party mix. The room, still tense from earlier events, seems to relax momentarily. But just as the delegates begin to settle into a brief respite, the atmosphere shifts again. A loud crash shakes the chamber. A group of terrorists, heavily armed and masked, storms into the council room, their eyes filled with malicious intent. Chaos erupts as the attackers make their move, guns raised, targeting the high-ranking delegates. Security systems flash to life, but it's clear that the attackers are well prepared, and the room is rapidly descending into confusion. Amid the turmoil, the human delegate remains calm, unfazed, even amused by the disorder unfolding around him. He eyes the snacks in front of him, then calmly picks up a single pretzel. In one smooth motion, the human hurls the pretzel toward an attacker. The pretzel hits the assailant square in the face, directly targeting the alien's sensitive sensory organs. The impact blinds him temporarily, sending the terrorist reeling backward, clutching his face in disorientation. At the same time, the human delegate reaches for the party mix, tossing a handful toward a different attacker. The mix, seemingly harmless, causes the attacker's communication systems to short-circuit. The terrorists' equipment sparks and fizzles, rendering them useless. But it's the crackers that steal the show. With a swift flick of the wrist, the human assembles the snacks into a makeshift plasma launcher. He points the crackers at a group of attackers and fires, sending a wave of energy that disables the entire group. The room falls into stunned silence as the last attacker collapses, incapacitated by the bizarre and unexpected weaponry. The delegates, still trying to comprehend what just happened, watch in disbelief. What should have been a harmless snack break has turned into a demonstration of the human's uncanny ability to weaponize anything within arm's reach. But the human delegate isn't done. He surveys the environment, his mind calculating the next step. The furniture around the room, chairs, tables, even the air filtration system becomes an extension of his imagination. He moves with ease, turning ordinary objects into tools of defense and offense. The air filtration system is manipulated to create localized pressure differentials, sending attackers flying as if gravity itself had betrayed them. The furniture, once mundane, is now used strategically to trap and incapacitate the remaining threats. What once was a meeting space for diplomacy has become a battleground of ingenuity. The Council, shaken to its core, knows that they can no longer rely on their traditional understanding of power. The weapons protocol is immediately called into question. A committee convenes in a hurried session to rewrite the guidelines. In an unprecedented move, food is banned from future meetings, as the Council acknowledges that anything at all could be turned into a weapon in human hands. But that's not enough. As the delegates nervously shuffle in their seats, the human delegate smiles faintly, his eyes gleaming with quiet certainty. Humans had proven something far more dangerous than a physical weapon. They had found a way to weaponize hunger itself. When nothing else was available, they would make use of whatever was at hand, whether that be food, furniture, or the very laws of nature. The galaxy had underestimated the true power of humanity. And now, it was too late to reverse the shift. The tension in the room is palpable. The council chamber, once a place of dignified diplomacy, is suddenly transformed into a battlefield. The doors burst open with a deafening crash, and a group of terrorists, armed with high-tech weapons and malicious intent, floods the room. Their eyes are wild with anger. Their mission clear: disrupt the critical meeting on the Unified Defense Treaty. They move swiftly, guns raised, targeting the high-ranking delegates with deadly precision. Delegates scramble to take cover, their panic evident. Some fumble with weapons that are never intended to be used in such a setting, while others retreat to corners, trying to shield themselves with any object they can find. The hum of security systems activates, but it's clear this is a situation beyond anyone's control. The terrorists are too fast, too prepared. In the midst of this madness, the human delegate stands. His expression is one of calm determination, as if he's witnessing nothing more than a minor inconvenience. He doesn't reach for any weapon, doesn't make any attempt to shield himself. His hands hover over his tablet as he methodically taps a few commands. A quiet buzz hums through the air, unnoticed by the terrorists, but the human knows exactly what he's doing. Suddenly, a shift in the air, subtle at first, ripples across the room. The air filtration system, which had been regulating the atmosphere to ensure comfort, now becomes an instrument of chaos. The human delegate presses a button on his tablet, and the very air around him begins to change. The pressure fluctuates, becoming heavier and more forceful. Without warning, the terrorists are thrown back. Their bodies are hurled through the air as if they were weightless. One terrorist crashes into a table, his weapon flying from his hands, and another is sent skidding across the polished floor, smacking into a wall with a sickening thud. The force of the air pressure shift is so powerful that several of the attackers lose their footing entirely, flailing helplessly as they struggle to regain control. The human delegate watches with a quiet, detached amusement. It's as if he's playing a game, his every movement calculated, every action perfectly executed. He stands still, the chaos around him like a swirling storm, while his mind works quickly, turning the environment into his weapon of choice. His eyes dart around the room, taking in his surroundings. The furniture, once innocuous objects, now take on a different purpose. A nearby chair, once a simple place to sit, is turned into an impact enhancer. With a quick motion, he lifts it and directs it toward one of the attackers who is struggling to regain control. The chair flies through the air, hitting the terrorist square in the chest. He's knocked back, his breath forced out of his lungs as he crumples to the floor. The human delegate doesn't stop there. He surveys the tables, the walls, even the decorative fixtures that line the chamber. His mind works in overdrive, finding new ways to use these objects, turning them into makeshift weapons. A table is flipped onto its side, creating an impromptu barricade that traps two terrorists in place. They try to push it aside, but the human is already moving again, calculating their next move. The air filtration system hums louder now, shifting the pressure once again. It's not just the furniture he controls, he's using the very atmosphere to destabilize the attackers, sending them into disarray. He manipulates the air currents, creating pockets of high pressure that send one terrorist flying across the room, crashing into another group of attackers. The terrorists' weapons are useless. Their communication systems short-circuit, their advanced technology malfunctioning in the face of the human delegate's ingenuity. They attempt to regroup, but it's too late. Each move they make is countered by the calm, methodical actions of the human who, with every motion, proves that true power isn't in the weapons you carry, it's in how you wield what's around you. As the last of the terrorists collapses to the floor, incapacitated by a combination of the furniture, the shifting air pressure, and the human's precise control over the environment, the room falls into a stunned silence. The delegates, who moments ago were scrambling for their lives, now look on in awe and fear. The human delegate stands alone in the center of the room, his tablet still in hand, his expression unchanged. The once chaotic scene has now settled into eerie calm, the attackers either incapacitated or unconscious, scattered across the chamber floor. The delegates exchanged looks of disbelief, their minds racing to comprehend what just happened. How had a single unarmed individual turned the tide of an attack so effortlessly? The camera lingers on the human delegate as he slowly sits back down at the table. He takes a sip from his coffee cup, as if nothing out of the ordinary had occurred. His calmness in the face of such chaos is unnerving, and the delegates can't help but feel a growing sense of fear. They had underestimated him, and now they realize the truth. It wasn't the weapons they had to fear. It was his mind. The council chamber, once again, goes quiet, the silence thick with the weight of realization. The human delegate had proven beyond a doubt that there is no need for conventional weapons when you possess the ability to turn anything into a weapon. And as the delegates sit in stunned silence, the human's presence, unarmed and unassuming, becomes the most terrifying thing in the room. The tension in the room is thick, as if the very walls of the council chamber are holding their breath. Delegates stand in uneasy silence, surveying the wreckage from the terrorist attack. The once immaculate space, designed for diplomacy, now looks like a battleground, tables overturned, chairs scattered, and a few of the attackers lying unconscious, incapacitated by a human who hadn't lifted a single weapon. The insectoid delegate is the first to speak, his voice trembling slightly, the sharp clicking of his mandibles betraying his agitation. "How?" he hisses, his antennae twitching nervously. "How did they do it? How did he take something as simple as a coffee cup and turn it into a weapon?" The reptilian delegate, who had been sitting quietly in his armor, rubs his face with a gloved hand, trying to comprehend the unfathomable. His eyes narrow as he reflects on what happened. His voice, though controlled, carries an edge of disbelief. "It wasn't the coffee cup, was it?" he says slowly. "It was how he used it. The cup was nothing, he was the weapon. A mind that could turn anything around him into something lethal." Another delegate, cloaked in shimmering robes, steps forward, his tone heavy with worry. "We have fought wars, waged battles that shaped the destiny of whole systems. But what could we do against this? A being that doesn't need destructive devices, a being that can use anything to destroy us." The metallic delegate, known for his imposing stature and sharp analytical mind, moves to the center of the room, his feet clanking against the floor. He pauses, casting a long, calculating glance at the human delegate, who remains seated at the table, his posture relaxed. The human has not moved since the attack ended, still holding his tablet, still sipping his coffee as if the entire ordeal were a mere interruption in his daily routine. "I thought we understood power," the metallic delegate mutters, his voice soft but filled with unease. "Weapons, technology, military strategy. Those were the things that decided the fate of worlds. But now we face an enemy who doesn't need any of that. He doesn't need machines or gadgets. What we saw today wasn't just a demonstration of physical force, it was creativity. And that, he stops, his eyes flashing. That terrifies me more than any weapon we've ever seen. The insectoid delegate shudders, his chitinous body vibrating as he lets out a low hiss. But he was unarmed. He didn't even bring weapons. The rest of us, we came prepared. His voice falters. He didn't need anything more than his wits. Another voice interrupts, one of the more reserved delegates, a species known for their logical thinking, steps into the conversation. But that's the point, isn't it? They say, their voice sharp with realization. We didn't think. We thought we could protect ourselves with shields, weapons, armor. But he doesn't need any of that. What if the next attack comes not from a gun, but from anything? A food item, a chair, even the very air we breathe. If we keep underestimating him, we'll lose. As the conversation swirls around the room, the human delegate remains unmoved, his presence steady. His calmness, almost eerie in contrast to the panicking voices around him, only serves to heighten the sense of unease. It's not just that he doesn't need weapons, it's that he doesn't even need to try. He's already steps ahead, his mind working faster than any of the highly advanced, combat-ready species in the room. A moment of silence falls over the council as the full weight of the situation sinks in. All eyes turn to the human, still sipping coffee as if nothing happened. He seems relaxed, almost bored. It's this lack of fear, this unshakable calmness, that unsettles them the most. The room had been thrown into chaos moments ago, yet here he is, seemingly untouched by the madness. The insectoid delegate stares at the human with growing trepidation. "What are you?" he asks, his voice barely a whisper. "How can you be so unbothered? We've never encountered a species like you. Your ability to turn anything into a weapon, it's not just dangerous. It's unstoppable." The human finally speaks, his voice calm, almost casual. "I don't need to be bothered. I simply do what's necessary. You bring your weapons, your shields, your devices, tools made for destruction. I bring my mind. The rest, well, it's just a matter of perspective." He leans back in his chair, his eyes scanning the room with quiet confidence. "I don't need weapons. I never did. The greatest weapon is not what you carry in your hands, it's what you can make out of what's already around you." The council falls silent, each member processing his words in stunned silence. Their minds race, trying to grasp the full implications of what he just said. This is a species that doesn't need to fight in a traditional sense. They don't need sophisticated technology or deadly gadgets. They just need to think. They can adapt, manipulate, and turn any situation into their advantage. The human delegate takes another sip from his coffee cup. It's just a simple gesture, but to the council, it feels like a reminder of the vast chasm of power between them. The human has already shown them that everything, absolutely everything, is a weapon in their hands. Even something as mundane as a coffee cup can be turned into a tool of destruction. As the camera pans over the council chamber, it becomes clear that a shift has occurred. The species that once stood as the rulers of the galaxy, the ones who held the power of advanced weaponry and ancient technologies, are now faced with something far more dangerous. They are no longer the ones in control. The human delegate, unarmed, unassuming, has shifted the balance. For the first time in the history of the Galactic Council, the question is not who has the most weapons, but who has the mind to turn the world itself into a weapon. And in this moment, it is clear, humanity has won. The council chamber is tense, suffocating under the weight of what has just been announced. The air, thick with uncertainty, feels almost electric. The once gleaming walls, designed to foster diplomatic unity, now seem to close in on the delegates as they sit in stunned silence, digesting the president's words. The entire room is gripped by a sense of looming change. The president's voice still lingers in the air. From now on, humans will be the only species required to attend council meetings unarmed. The decision has been made, but its true impact has yet to settle into the minds of the gathered delegates. The room is heavy with the gravity of this new rule, a shift in the very fabric of intergalactic diplomacy. The other species, each once proud of their weaponry, now sit in confusion, disbelief, and quiet awe. The reptilian delegate, his face shrouded in the polished reflective surfaces of his battlesuit, slowly leans forward. His voice, though measured, carries a note of vulnerability. "This is unprecedented," he says, the weight of his words palpable. "Are we truly to believe that the humans are to be treated differently because they choose not to carry weapons? What if their minds, what if their creativity becomes a threat that we cannot control?" His gaze flickers toward the human delegate, still seated at the table, seemingly unfazed by the mounting tension in the room. The camera moves slowly to the human delegate, whose posture remains entirely casual. He takes a long, deliberate sip from his coffee cup, the sound of the liquid swirling inside the cup ringing through the silence. His fingers lazily tap on the surface of the tablet resting before him, and for a fleeting moment, his eyes flick up to meet the reptilian delegate's gaze. He offers a small, barely perceptible smile, a smile that speaks volumes more than any words could. "How can we protect ourselves from that?" the insectoid delegate asks, his antennae twitching nervously. His sharp, insectoid features seem to soften in his moment of uncertainty. We build our weapons for survival. But these humans..." His voice falters, "they make anything into a weapon." The human delegate doesn't answer immediately. His calmness in the face of such mounting fear is unnerving to everyone watching. The entire council is now fixated on him, the weight of the room's eyes pressing down on him. And yet, he continues to sip his coffee as if he is the only one in the room who understands the true nature of this moment. The metallic delegate, who had been silent until now, slowly stands from his seat, the soft whirring of his mechanical joints filling the room. He turns his head to look at the human delegate, his voice cold but edged with a new sense of respect. "We cannot ignore this," he says, his tone sharpened by realization. "We've spent centuries perfecting our weapons, building machines capable of unfathomable destruction. But we are facing something we never anticipated, a species that doesn't rely on tools or technology. It's their creativity that makes them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. If they can weaponize anything, then they have already won. The rest of us are irrelevant." His voice breaks, and the weight of his own words seems to hit him hard, though he doesn't show it. The human delegate finally sets down his coffee cup, placing it gently on the table. The room is utterly still. The camera zooms in on his face, and for the first time, there is no smile, only calm determination, the kind that sends an icy chill through the council members. He looks around the room, his eyes locking with each delegate in turn. He knows exactly what they are thinking, what they fear. "You've all overestimated the importance of your weapons," the human says softly, his voice carrying clearly across the room. "You built your power around the tools you wield, but true power isn't in what you carry, it's in how you think. The real weapon lies in the ability to see the world differently, to use what's around you in ways no one else can. It's not about destroying, it's about creating new possibilities." He pauses, letting the words sink in, before continuing. "The reason I don't need weapons is simple. I can turn anything into one." The room falls into stunned silence once again. The insectoid delegate shifts uncomfortably in his seat, his many eyes flicking nervously to the coffee cup that rests on the table, a reminder of how something so simple, so ordinary, can become a tool of destruction in human hands. The reptilian delegate, still unsure of whether to be terrified or impressed, leans back in his chair, glancing at his fellow delegates. His expression betrays a mixture of fear and respect. "So what now?" he asks, his voice quieter this time. "What do we do with them? With humans?" The president, who has been observing the exchange with quiet intensity, finally steps forward. There's a note of finality in their voice as they speak, the decision now set in stone. "The rule is simple," they state. "Humans will be the only species required to attend meetings unarmed. Not because they can't carry weapons, but because everything they touch can be turned into one." A ripple of murmurs runs through the room, as each delegate processes the new rule. The weight of the moment is undeniable. The council has just acknowledged that the humans are no longer just another species to contend with. They are, by their very nature, a force that cannot be matched. The camera focuses on the human delegate once more. He remains as calm as ever, his hands resting lightly on the table, his expression unreadable. He doesn't need to prove anything. His mere existence in the room is enough to alter the balance of power. It's clear now, this is the true power, having the ability to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary, the mundane into the deadly. The other species, once so certain of their own superiority, now realize they are playing a different game. They have weapons, they have technology, but none of it compares to the quiet, unassuming power the humans wield, a power rooted not in force, but in the mind. As the delegates file out of the chamber, still whispering in hushed tones, the camera lingers on the human delegate. He remains seated, his coffee cup in hand, seemingly at peace with the weight of what's just transpired. The room, once a place of calculated diplomacy, has been irrevocably changed. And as the doors close behind the last delegate, the final thought lingers in the air. The humans have not only altered the balance of power, they have redefined it entirely. The camera slowly pulls back, revealing the infinite vastness of space beyond the Galactic Council chamber. The stars shimmer coldly in the distance, scattered across the cosmos like pinpricks of light in the ever-expanding dark. Space, vast and unyielding, surrounds the chamber now, as if it is aware of the delicate and momentous shift that has taken place within the walls. The once powerful, unyielding presence of the chamber feels suddenly fragile against the backdrop of the universe. Inside the chamber, the alien delegates are no longer the same. Their once confident, almost arrogant demeanor has now been replaced with a quiet, cautious fear, perhaps of the human species that sits among them. Where their weapons and technologies once defined them, now it is their ability to create to turn anything into a weapon that has changed the balance of power forever. Every movement, every glance, feels more deliberate, as if they are all holding their breath, not quite sure what will come next from the humans they once underestimated. The human delegate remains in his seat, the very picture of calm. His hands rest lightly on the table, his coffee cup sitting in front of him, steam rising lazily into the air. His gaze drifts across the room, meeting the eyes of his fellow delegates. There's no smile, no smirk, just a quiet, measured confidence that unsettles everyone present. He knows they are watching him, weighing him, and perhaps even fearing him now. But he shows no sign of discomfort. To him, this is just another meeting, another day. He sips his coffee slowly, as if savoring the quiet power in this moment of uncertain stillness. The camera zooms out slowly, showing the alien delegates in their various forms, each one more apprehensive than the last. The insectoid delegate shifts nervously, his legs twitching involuntarily. The reptilian delegate clutches the armrests of his chair a little too tightly, the armor of his battle suit creaking slightly under the pressure. Even the normally composed metallic delegate seems unnerved, his posture rigid and tense as if bracing for something, though what, he cannot predict. Then, a heavy silence falls over the room. The hum of the chamber's engines, the soft footsteps of the guards, the distant echoes of the vast space beyond, they all seem to fade, leaving the delegates alone with their thoughts. The sense of unease, of something about to happen, grows stronger. The president of the council, standing at the front, casts a long, thoughtful glance across the room. The weight of this moment is not lost on them. They had watched the humans rise from a species they could easily dismiss to the one that had changed the very nature of power in this room. They knew that the decision to allow humans to be unarmed was not just an accommodation, it was a recognition of something far deeper, the ability to weaponize the world itself. There was no armor that could protect them from that. The president steps forward, their footsteps measured and deliberate. Their voice, once booming with confidence, now carries the weight of something more, a resignation, perhaps, but also a sense of reluctant admiration. This is not just a rule, the president says slowly, their voice echoing in the stillness. This is an acknowledgement of humanity's unique power. We've all come here to build, to negotiate, to protect. But you, they gesture toward the human delegate, who simply looks up, still calm, still unbothered. You have shown us that the greatest tool of all is not one we can carry, not one we can build. It is one that lies within you. The president pauses, their eyes narrowing slightly as they regard the human with a mixture of respect and fear. You will be the only species in the council who is unarmed. Not because you cannot bring weapons, but because everything you touch could be turned into one. Their words hang in the air, thick and undeniable, like the final, inevitable truth. The insectoid delegate, still clearly rattled, can't help himself. He rises abruptly, his legs trembling beneath him. But how can we fight that? How can we compete with something we don't understand? The reptilian delegate adds, his voice low and heavy, we brought our greatest weapons, our strongest shields, and now, we are facing something that can turn our own creations against us. His hands, clenched into fists, show the tension running through him. The human delegate watches them all, his face betraying no emotion. He reaches for his coffee cup again, swirling the liquid slowly. His actions seem almost too deliberate, too calm. He doesn't need to say anything. His presence alone is enough to answer their question. He knows what they are thinking. They are thinking they have no way to defend themselves against a species that can turn the very air they breathe, the furniture they sit on, the objects they use, into something lethal. The camera shifts back to the president, who has seen the realization spread across the faces of every delegate in the room. The room is no longer filled with the competitive edge of diplomacy. It is filled with uncertainty. The president finally speaks, their voice steady but carrying the weight of what has transpired. This is no longer about who has the strongest weapon, the most advanced technology, or the oldest power. The new rule is not just about keeping you safe, human, they say, looking directly at the human delegate. It's about understanding that, in this council, power is no longer just what you bring to the table. It is what you create with what you have. As the president steps back, the room falls into an unsettling quiet. There is no immediate applause, no cheer of victory. There is only the stillness of uncertainty, of the delegates processing the enormous weight of what has just been decided. The camera pulls back even further, showing the entirety of the council chamber. The space around the delegates, once filled with buzzing activity and strategic moves, now feels like an arena where everything can change in an instant. The camera lingers on the human delegate, who remains seated in quiet contemplation, his cup resting before him. As the camera pans to the wide-open expanse of space, the feeling of isolation becomes more pronounced. The Council's power had always been rooted in their weapons and technology. But now, the vastness of space mirrors a new reality, the reality where humanity's true weapon is something far more dangerous, their limitless creativity. The stars beyond seem to twinkle brighter as the camera pulls back even further, each distant light representing a world, a possibility, an unknown future. The silence between the human delegates and the rest of the galaxy feels profound. What will humanity weaponize next? What will they create from the ordinary, the mundane, the simple? The question hangs in the cold expanse, unanswered, as the screen fades to black. As the dust settles, and the echoes of chaos fade into a chilling silence, one undeniable truth hangs heavy in the air: humanity doesn't need weapons to dominate the galaxy. They don't need the advanced technology or destructive devices that others rely on. No, humanity only needs what's already in front of them. A simple coffee cup, a chair, even the most mundane packet of snacks, things that most would overlook as nothing more than everyday objects. But in the hands of humans, these seemingly innocent things become tools of survival, weapons of unimaginable power. What happens next? The Council now knows they are facing something entirely new, something they've never seen before. Can any species truly stand against humans, beings who can take the very fabric of reality itself and twist it to their will, weaponizing not just tools, but nature itself? The galaxy trembles with the question of what humanity might do next, and the unsettling thought that nothing is truly safe anymore. This isn't just about a shift in power, it's the beginning of something far darker, more profound. The rules have changed, and the galaxy is watching with a mix of awe and fear. What will humanity weaponize next? What ordinary object, what hidden potential, Will they reveal to change the galaxy once again? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Dare to guess what comes next, but be warned, you may not want to know. The story is just beginning, and what happens next might just change everything we thought we knew. The galaxy is watching, and so are we. Will you be back for the next chapter?